Hello, this is Tiara, co-host of the Goddess Vibration podcast. And in this video, we're going to talk about fake spirituality or commercialized spirituality and how it is getting so many people trapped and keeping people stuck in these states of stagnation in New Age and in the spiritual space. And honestly, I wish that there was more being said about this because I do think that it's a very pervasive issue. So please do sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee because I've got a lot to say about this too. For those of you guys who don't know me, again, my name is Tiarra Earls, and I am co-host of the Goddess Vibration podcast. Our podcast you can find on Spotify, Amazon, and Apple. And basically, we just talk about spirituality, we talk about the new age space, and we talk about how to navigate a spiritual healing journey, an ascension journey, and provide tools, tips, and resources that you could use to kind of help you along that path. Because it's a lot of work and it does require a lot of effort and support. So if you're in that space where you're like, man, I want to get to that next phase of my journey, I want to, really overcome this plateau that I'm at. We also have an online spiritual community called the Higher Vibe Tribe, which you can find on Patreon, and it is open to anyone. And just for signing up, you get 7 days for free. We know that new spaces require some time to acclimate to. So the 7 days is just a way for you to see if it's the place that you want to stick around or not. Totally up to you. On that space, we do provide tools, tips, and healing resources, but we also do channeled messages from these incredible divine entities, which we call the guides. And we also offer tarot readings from yours truly. So there's a lot of great content on there. So please do go check that out as well. Oh, also, please do like this video because liking it helps get it in front of the people who need it most. I think it's like an energetic thing. I'm not sure, but it really does make a huge impact. And if you like this kind of stuff, please subscribe to our channel. So when I say commercialized spirituality, what do I mean by that? Well, it's a real thing. It's a real space out there. And at the end of the day, it's a space that doesn't really give you what you need to ascend. Now, on our podcast, we do talk a lot about ascending. We talk a lot about awakening as well, and that there's a difference between awakening versus ascending. If you want to learn more about that, you can check out our podcast. But essentially, this is a space that just is so focused on the commercialized aspect of spirituality and making money and instant gratification, that deeper aspects and elements of spirituality, which is a journey of the self, tends to get lost. Now, I had my awakening in 2019. My awakening was triggered by a divine counterpart connection. And basically, we just energetically connected. And then, boom, I had literally had an overnight awakening. It was a top down awakening. So it was just all this stuff that sort of came down through my crown chakra, and my perspective of reality literally shifted overnight. Like it felt like I woke up one day and was like, oh my God, we live in a matrix. What do I do with this new profound sense of reality? It was like an awareness had settled upon me, and I knew intuitively, instinctively that it was my purpose and journey to find a way to acclimate to a new reality that was more in alignment for me and my best and highest good. Now, everyone's spiritual journey is different. For me, I did sort of have this inner sense that I wanted to serve the collective, that I wanted to be, some type of healer or a coach or a guide or something along those lines. And it was a very, very strong, heavy, deep sense of purpose. Now, the thing about this is that oftentimes when you have an awakening, you can't just jump right into serving people. You have to do some of that inner work so that you can get to a place where you can even attract the right client base because everything's energetic. So the energy that you put out is the energy that the universe gives back to you. That's something that I've learned along this journey and something that my co-host talks about often. So you kind of got to do a little bit of that work before you can just jump in and serve the collective. Now, the thing about the spiritual space is that anyone can say anything and it can be taken as objective fact because what is spirituality? It's this space where there really isn't any proof or evidence to anything we're talking about. You just kind of have to either accept some of the things that are said in this space or use discernment or decide that this is a place that is too woo-woo for you. So for example, the concept of the chakras, that we have 7 chakras or more than that, depending on your belief, and that these energetic centers carry karma and that we must clear our chakras. There's no physical evidence or proof for something like that, but we all just instinctively and intuitively accept that chakras are a thing and that we need to work through our chakras and that they're a really important aspect of our journey. And there's a lot of that in the spiritual new age space. There's a lot of just taking this information that's either been channeled or that someone discovered and just accepting it as true. So when I had my awakening, I knew that I needed deeper healing. Like I knew that I needed coaching or guidance or something to, help me get to where I wanted to be in life. It was a very intuitive sense. And I did go seek out healing and support from people that I mostly found online. Oftentimes it was someone that I gravitated to energetically, or maybe I stumbled upon someone in a Facebook group, or I would just do a Google search and try to find someone who does the supportive work that I was looking for. And I do remember specifically aligning with someone who did Akashic Records readings, and she claimed to also be a twin flame, twin soul. And we sort of connected on that. And she offered a lot of stuff. She offered not just the Akashic Records readings, but she did like coaching and guidance. And I think she also did tarot and past life regression. And she did one-on-one guidance. And she was kind of like a jack of all trades. So I was like, okay, you seem cool. I guess I'll pay for something. And I paid for an Akashic Records reading. And it was the first time that I had actually gotten deep information about my spiritual purpose and my past lives and some of the karma that I was working through in this lifetime. Now, all that information turned out to be very valuable. But I also ran into some other healers who helped and gave me information and things that I could use, but it wasn't information that really catapulted me into the deeper depths of healing that I really truly needed. So the issue that I notice people run into with commercialized spirituality is that you run into these coaches and guides and spiritualists. The work is so heavily commercialized and it's so heavily focused on making money and providing instant gratification and helping people get instant immediate results that more deeper component of in-depth subconscious work, which is absolutely essential on any type of healing and ascending journey, sort of gets lost along the way. And unfortunately for me, I have paid for a lot of healers in this space who have given a lot of guidance and wisdom, but it's always been very superficial. Like it's always been stuff that sort of like makes me feel better in the immediate, but then eventually at some point I get into the same dark space or that same really heavy dark night of the soul energy, and I'm right back where I was before I paid for the services that I was seeking. So I think that this space needs to shift the focus a little bit more away from that surface level healing and more into like the deeper subconscious stuff and even the shadow work, because again, when it comes to like that deeper, heavier aspect of spirituality, I really don't see that getting emphasized enough.
Aww.
So, on our podcast, we do talk a lot about love and light spirituality, which is all the positive aspects of spirituality. And it is this side of it where you start to see things like spiritual bypassing, where there's overemphasis on like the positive, and there isn't enough emphasis on the dual aspect of spirituality, which is you're integrating the light with the shadow. You can't have one without the other. They kind of go hand in hand. Duality is just the nature of the universe. It is the nature of existence. Why is that getting lost? I don't know. Now, one of the things I'm noticing when it comes to this space is when you start talking about like the shadow work and dark night of the soul and integrating traumas and working through your negative behavioral patterns and your negative beliefs and thinking, people start to run away fast, really fast. I don't know where they're going. So I don't quite know what the fear behind that is. That's going to be another video because I do have a lot of things to say about that too. I have a lot of things to say about many things. I talk a lot. So I think that's probably why you see commercialized spirituality focusing so heavily on the love and light and rainbows, because when you start talking about dark night of the soul and shadow work, people tend to look the other way. So it's totally and completely understandable. But it isn't true spirituality. A word of caution, too, when it comes to this space is that, I talked about healers and guides and spiritualists in this space who have the most positive intention. They want to help people. But if you haven't done the deeper level of introspective work and healing, particularly the shadow work aspects, you can only help people so much. Like, it's almost like you can only help people as far as you've helped yourself when it comes to your own healing. So you end up getting a lot of people in this space who are imposters. Now, again, that's not to say that they don't have positive intentions and that they're not doing good things, because that work still helps so many people. It's just that it can only help people so much. And the majority of the time, the work is very surface level. So please do keep that in mind, especially if you're new to this space and you're looking for a guide or looking for a coach, that there are a lot of imposter energies out there, and you really need to practice discernment and really use your intuition. So, what is true spirituality? We actually channeled an answer to this question in our online community, which came from a God being. And what he said was so insightful and it made so much sense. If you're interested in seeing that full channeling session, you can on our Patreon. But he essentially explains that true spirituality is a journey of the self. It is a journey back to your true essence. It is letting go of all the things that no longer serve you, whether that's childhood trauma or things from prior lives that are still affecting you in this life, or karma or negative destructive beliefs and thinking patterns. Essentially, you are navigating through all of that and shedding it and letting it go so that the true essence of who you are as a person without this heavy baggage gets revealed to the world, and the reality that you want then gets reflected back to you in your physical. Because isn't that ultimately what we all want? Like, we all want to manifest our dream lives. We all want to manifest the things that we desire most in our heart and in our core. And that's what true spirituality is. It's essentially integrating your shadows with the light, bringing light to the shadows, and finding balance. Especially hard to do in a society that prioritizes imbalance. Like, you almost have to exist in that way in this society, and it's very unfortunate. So I'm on this journey, and I've been on this journey for the better part of 5 to 6 years. And boy, has it been a journey. I talk about it in the podcast a little bit, but there's been so many ups and downs. most of the work that I was doing initially was very surface level because I did get caught in that whole commercialized spirituality space, and I embraced a lot of that stuff. And again, there's nothing wrong with that stuff. But when you start talking about like incense and crystals and chakras and meditation, all of that stuff is beneficial, but it's not going to help you do the shadow work. It's more their tools and resources to sort of help you navigate and find balance. But if you really want to get to where you want to go, you got to do the shadow work. So when I say shadow work, essentially I'm just talking about those aspects of yourself that are harmful to yourself. They're destructive, they're damaging, they're hurt, they're wounded. They're aspects of ourselves we don't typically like to look at. They tend to be aspects of ourselves that make us very uncomfortable. And oftentimes we just don't feel comfortable delving into that aspect of our psyche, which is completely and totally understandable. Like, the human brain likes to protect. It's going to protect us from the hard, sad, hurtful stuff. That's just what it does. But with this depth of journeying, there's this aspect of needing to develop the courage and the strength to look at those shadows and bring them love and compassion and understanding, because it is through that level of work that you can get to a state of peace. And again, isn't peace, especially mental peace, especially emotional peace, so valuable and so important and desired? Like, at this state of my journey, this is probably the most mental and emotional peace I have ever felt, ever. And I've been on this planet close to 40 years, and it has taken me nearly 6 years and extensive support from guides and from coaches to even get to this space, which goes to show that this is a journey you can't do by yourself. I don't care who you are, who you think you are, you need the additional support. So shadow work is so, so, so important. And if you go into this space and don't consider the significance and the importance of the shadow aspect and of the shadow work, you're going to get caught in something called the false ascension matrix.
False ascension matrix.
Yes, that's a thing. Yes, I looked it up. You can look it up yourself. There's the website. You heard it from me. Do your own research. So please do consider that if you're in this space, if you're new to this space, if you're looking for tools and tips and resources and you really want to get to where you want to go, and you know internally that you need to do deeper levels of work, please don't neglect your shadow. Your shadow is just another aspect of yourself that needs light, love, and support. So, how do you navigate this space if there's just an over focus on commercialized spirituality, or there's an over focus on, the more surface level stuff, and there's imposters everywhere? How do you navigate it? How do you find what you're looking for? How do you get the support that you really truly need? Well, you have to learn how to practice discretion and use your intuition when it comes to picking out people to work with, to coach you, to guide you, and to mentor you. Now, I know that that's harder said than done. Like, when I started in this space, I didn't have that level of discernment. Like, yeah, I had some intuition, but I ignored it half the time because we often do that in favor of the logical and the rational, which gets us in a lot of trouble, and it got me in a ton of trouble. So you really need to develop that aspect of discretion and discernment when looking for a coach. And oftentimes it's an energetic thing. It will be something intuitive. It'll just be like this sense or this feeling, or you'll just feel like you're guided towards someone, or you feel a pull towards someone, or maybe they say some things that resonate deeply with you. There are things that you can look out for to find the right person. You just have to keep those things in mind when you're trying to find support, especially if you're looking online, because it's the internet. The internet's crazy. It's crazy. Don't neglect the deeper aspects of healing. Don't neglect the psyche, the subconscious, the shadow. Those are all aspects of yourself. You can't run from it. You can't hide from it. I mean, you can, but it's going to catch up to you at some point. You're only going to go so far. Don't do that to yourself. Just 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 surrender. Also, this is also easier said than done. Don't let fear take over when you're in this space and when you're doing this type of work, because it's easy to let that happen. That happened to me a lot. And a lot of the fear was just this fear of what might be there, especially once I start looking at the shadows. This fear that I might get re traumatized or that my past might come back to haunt me in some way if I start looking into this aspect of my psyche and myself. And the thing about fear is that it's ultimately an illusion. Like, you're not gonna die if you go and look at these deeper aspects of yourself that need love and nurturing. It's not gonna kill you. You're not at risk in any way, shape, or form. It's all in the mind. So that's why I said earlier that doing this deeper aspect of healing is going to require courage. It's going to require mental fortitude and strength. And just because of that, not something you can do alone. It's just not. So if you're in this space and you're wanting to get over that plateau, you're wanting to look at some deeper aspects of healing work and explore what it might take to really go into your psyche and do some of the shadow work, that is exactly what our online community is for. Like, we created it as a space for people who are ready to do this specific level of work, because we know what it entails, we know what it requires, and since we know now that you can't do it alone, you've got an online community of people who are here to help you do it and are willing to hold your hand along the way. And gosh, I wish I would have had that when I started this journey. Like, I really, really wish I would have. So if you're interested and curious, you can find our online community online at www.patreon.com/5higher, or you can just go on to our podcast website, which is www.goddessvibrationstudio.com. And we actually have some really cool freebies on there too, if you just want to take a look around that you might enjoy. That will also be featured in a couple other videos coming up later. So please do check that out. And as of this recording, we are looking at a potential TikTok ban in the United States. So I have decided to dabble a little bit in Red Notes, and so far I really like what I'm seeing on there. So if you're curious, check me out on there. It's just under my name. I'll probably change my handle. I need to figure out how to do that because the instructions are in Mandarin. But I'm on there, dabbling around, deciding if this is going to be a space I want to be in. So please do check me out there as well.